Hello and welcome to Tricks of the S-Trade channel. Today happens to be the 23rd of April 2018. And in today's feature, we're featuring Henry Kissinger. Now, if you grew up and studied a lot of history like I have all through time, at some point in time, you're going to be crossing over or you're going to come in contact with Henry Kissinger. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right, if it's Harry Kissinger or Harry Kissinger. I don't really know how it's pronounced, but all regardless, by the time you guys take a look at the video, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. Harry Kissinger right now is still alive. So if I say Kissinger or Kissinger, just know that I don't know what's the pronunciation, right? So anyhow, I might call it Kissinger or I might call it Kissinger, but regardless, you guys know who I'm talking about. So Henry Kissinger is a very, very popular political figure because if you're studying history like I have, you're going to come in crossroads and you're going to meet Henry Kissinger. I think that among all the politicians that we've ever known in this world, Henry Kissinger happens to be the one that is, let's say, the most popular figure, a very polarizing figure in politics, in worldwide politics. And according to the the narrative that we've been told every single day about the what they say politically correct history, Harry Kissinger happens to be the person who brought about, let's say, the United States defecting from the gold standard, removing the dollar from the gold standard that it was used during the Nixon era. He's also responsible for bringing about the, I think they said that he kind of put to bed the oil crisis that happened, I think, in the 1960s or 1970s or thereabout. And he also brought about the thing OPEC, in which Saudi Arabia, he engineered OPEC to become an oil-producing, exporting community together with other oil-producing communities around the world. So Harry Kissinger is a very, very polarizing figure in the world of politics. But as we'll find out in this video that Harry Kissinger was not the one making all those plans. That means he wasn't the one behind Nixon removing the United States dollar from the gold standard. He wasn't responsible for the oil embargo and the oil crisis that happened during the 60s or the 70s. And he was not also responsible for formulating the oil producing countries in which Saudi Arabia was leading. All these were done by the Vatican to control the worldwide economy and make sure that it tightened its noose around everything so that in anything financially and economically would always have to come through the Vatican's organizations. So if it's your first time on the channel, I'd like to welcome you. And if you've heard all that and you want to continue watching this video because we're talking about Henry Kissinger, I would advise you to pause the video right here and go look for the primer video. Without you watching the primer video, a lot of things that I'm saying is not going to make any sense to you at all. You're going to have more unanswered questions than actually listening to the video and the video making sense. Now, before I continue to show you guys the primer videos and before I continue, for the new subscriber, before I continue to show you how to get to the primer video, a lot of people come up to the channel and have problems with me talking about or repeating certain things, like for example showing you guys how to identify the genders skeletally, based on the skeletal structure, sorry to say, or based on the fact that I always point you guys to the document. Then I also tell you how to identify the sex based on the primary identification, which always lies in the hips of a female, differentiating the female skeletal structure from the male skeletal structure, to say. And one thing I have to let you guys understand is the fact that in the world that we live in, the reason why we are the way that we are is because we have been hearing certain things repeated over and over and over and over again. So it's stuck in our psyche, all right? That's why, for example, when you watch TV, it is called TV programming. What does programming mean? In a computer world, when you say you're programming something, it means that you're writing a certain set of instructions and making the processor or the computer to repeat these instructions over and over and over and over and over again. In a normal sense, our brains function like a computer. When you hear things repeated over and over and over again, it sticks. So, for example, when you started, let's say when you started going to school as a very young child, let's say maybe 2 to 3 years old or 4 years old, at any age that you started going to school, you would notice that when you got to school, the first things that your teachers sent you through was how to memorize the alphabets. And how did you memorize the alphabets? By repeating it over and over and over again and until it stuck. So even in your old age today, you could still rhyme through the alphabets from A to Z. That is what programming does. So when we repeat what we repeat over and over again on the videos, for even though you've watched it 1,000 times on any video that you pick up, we always go through the same repetitive process of telling you the differences between male and female and showing you all that skeletal difference between male and female in their hips, the skeletal structure, and so on and so forth, is because if you're trying to get rid of a bad habit, you have to repeatedly repeat things over to yourself again and again and again, and then the bad habit that you had is going to go away and you have the new habit. So that's what programming does. So that's why, for example, on the TVs that we watch, which the Vatican control, and all the movies that we watch, is socially repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again because they want you to get it. Because without saying the same things over and over again, you're not going to be, all right, understanding, and you're not going to commit things to memory. So that's what the Vatican does by repeating the same things over and over and over again through TV, through the media, through the news that you hear, through the schools. A lot of things are now stuck in our head that we can't get rid of. So, for example, one of the best examples I could tell you is that if you're somebody who goes to church, you always hear the name Jesus Christ. You're probably reading your Bible, it says Jesus Christ. So Jesus is stuck in your head. You can't get rid of that programming that has been there for a very, very long time. And the programming, as long as it's saying Jesus Christ, always shows you the man with blue eyes and flowing hair, and always standing with with a peace sign. And so in your memory, that is what you have come to understand to be Jesus Christ. So that's what programming does. Somebody by the name of Hitler once said, if you tell a lie, and you tell a big lie, and you repeat it over and over and over again, it's going to be accepted as truth. So a lot of the things that we've come to understand and know about our world is because it's been repeated over and over and over again. Even George Bush said so. So, for example, in the media, you hear the words terrorism. You hear gun laws. You hear gun laws in the news. You hear gun laws in movies, or you hear terrorism in the movies. So this thing is now stuck in your psyche. So it has become something that you believe, because as long as the TV is repeating these things and you hear it in the media, you hear it in the schools, your friends talk about it, you repeat it over again. So that's why what TV does is say, repeat after me and say it again. So that's what we do. So programming comes from repeating the same thing over and over again in acceptance of what's being said to you, and that belief system is going to get stuck. So that's why we're doing the same thing over here in a positive sense, by repeating the same thing over and over again until it's now stuck in your psyche, so that automatically when you wake up in the morning, you just know, you can tell the difference, because you're repeating after us as we're repeating it over to you again and again. So if you don't like the fact that we are repeating stuff over and over to you again, try not, because what's the best way to explain this? If you're trying to, let's say, get rid of maybe a certain type of language in your vocabulary, you have to replace it with another language, because if you don't, you're still going to have that bad language in your vocabulary. That's the best way I can put it. So if you, let's say, for example, there are certain things you don't like saying. If you do not replace it with another word, you're still going to be repeating that same thing over and over again. Let's say, for example, you don't like I'm trying to find the best way to explain this. Let's say you don't, maybe for a long time, you've always been calling people stupid, okay? And anything that comes out of your word, the first language that comes out of your word is stupid. And you're trying to replace that bad language of stupid from you saying it. If you don't find another word to replace it, so instead of saying, maybe if you want to say stupid, you have to pause and stop yourself and say something like, great. All right. If you don't replace the word great, or if you don't replace the word stupid with great, you're still always gonna be saying stupid. So that's the best way I can explain that. So with that said, I hope you guys understand why we do what we do. And so let's pause this video right here and show the new subscribers how to get to the primer video. If you're already an old subscriber, then you already know what to do. For the new subscribers, this is the point that I advise that you pause the video and go look for the primer video. The primer video contains, let's say, 2 or 3 other videos inside which we think you ought to watch, because it will help you to understand what we're saying down here and whatsoever we are going to be explaining, because the primer video is the foundation, is the most important video that you have to watch on this channel before you pick up any other video to watch, because without that you won't be understanding a lot of things that we're saying. So I'm going to pause the video right here and show you how to get to the primer video if you're a new subscriber. So the video is called Primer. It's going to be the oldest video on the channel. Like we said earlier, it has 2 or 3 more videos on the playlist, because there's a playlist for it as well. So you can get on the channel and look for a playlist called Primer. And when you play this video or any other video that we have on this particular channel, for a new subscriber, there is a link in the description section. We advise that you click on this link, and this link will take you to a document called Male versus Female Visual Differences. We advise that you study this document and keep it handy, because it will show you the visual differences between male and female based on the secondary male and female characteristics, and also based on the primary difference between males and females in the skeletal structure. So if we live in a perfect world, this document would tell you exactly how females and males look based on the primary identification through their secondary characteristics and on their primary characteristics. But since we do not live in a perfect world, we live in a world in which there's so much poison in our food, water, clothing, and air that we breathe, such that the secondary male characteristics, which show up like facial hair and a deep voice and an Adam's apple, can show up in a female because of the hormones that's all around us. So that's why we only concentrate on the primary identification markers, which always lies in the skeleton, because nothing can change the skeletal structure from a male to a female or from a female to a male, which we advise that anybody who's doing your transvestigation should always base your transvestigation based on the primary identification between males and females, which lies in the skeletal structure. Because if you go off the secondary characteristics, which the Vatican wants all of us to concentrate on, because when you watch a lot of videos, they base the identification markers of females and males based on the secondary characteristics, but they forget that the secondary is based on the primary. So that means if you don't get the primary right, the secondary is wrong. All right, so I want you guys to remember that all the time. Base your transvestigation on the primary identification markers between males and females, which lies in the skeletal structure, because nothing can change the skeletal structure. That's why, for example, from dead remains, from only the skeletons of somebody who was living, you can identify the sex of that person without any of the body tissues on top of that person. So the skeleton is the primary identification and not the secondary characteristics which differentiate males from females. Okay, so I want you guys to remember that. So since we're already neck deep in a transvestigation of Miss Kissinger, who's been used by the Vatican to sell us the idea that Kissinger was the one creating all the policies that has brought the world to the way it is today. Because let's just make you understand something. It's from the Kissinger era that the world has spiraled down to what it is today. So the Vatican did make us believe that Kissinger was the one creating all these policies because they didn't want you to know that it was always the Vatican. For example, Kissinger was neck deep in the Vietnam War, which changed the whole entire system of the United States of America to what it is today. There's so much things that Kissinger did because right from that era is why the world it is the way it is, because the Vatican used him. So that means all the policies that Kissinger did was fraudulent. And because he himself couldn't even tell you the truth that he's not the gender that he claimed, as we'll find out in this particular video. So since we're already neck deep in transvestigation, let's go through a document just to show you the skeletal and primary difference between a male and a female. So a female right here, as you can see, has an arch in her back. Why does a woman have an arch in her back? It's because the pelvis of a female is tilted forward. Why is there a pelvic tilt? Because a female has to give birth. Without the pelvic tilt, a baby cannot stay inside the pelvic region for the 9 months of conception. And also the arch is extra support for distributing the weight of pregnancy so that the female doesn't have any problems walking, hurting herself or her child. All right. So if you draw if you're trying to draw the arch in a female's back from below the shoulder blades right here, it's going to form a deep C arch in the back. If you try to draw it from high above the shoulder blades, it's going to form an S-shaped arch in this back, as you can see right here. So I want you to remember those two letters for a female's back. It's going to be shaped like a C, or it's going to be shaped like an S. For males, males have a straight back because a male's pelvis is not tilted forward like that of a female. Because males do not give birth, males are not designed to give birth, and males will never give birth. For a man, the way he's designed in such a way that his reproductive organs have to be outside the body. Why is it outside the body? So that it can function optimally at the optimal temperature. All right? So that's why the hips of a man are above his crotch, because the hips determines where the body ends. So for a female, it is below the crotch. For males, it's above the crotch. And the female reproductive organs is all inside the body. Nothing is external. For males, it's external. So that's why the hips have to end above the crotch so that the reproductive organs can be externally outside the body. All right, so that's why a man will never have an arch in his back. If a man's back wants to arch, it's going to arch outwards like you see here. It's not going to arch inwards like you see here for a female. It arches outwards into the shape of a D or a P, but a straight back and a straight pelvis. It's going to go straight down into the pelvis. So I want you to remember those two letters for males, shaped like a D or a P, and it's a straight back. For females, it's shaped like an S or a C, and it's an arch back. So let's scroll further into the document just to show you what a female looks like. And here you can see right here is a female kneeling down. You can see this deep C arch in the back because the pelvis of a woman is tilted forward. It doesn't matter what texture of hair, what's her ethnicity, or what's the color of her skin. A female will always have an arch in her back, because without an arch in her back, you can't be female. That is just as simple as that, because the pelvis is tilted forward. It doesn't matter what size the female comes in, whether she's big, she's tall, she's small, she's a pygmy, whatever name you want to give to that female based on her size. There's always going to be an arch in a female's back, as you can see right here. Here is a bigger female to my left. She has an arch in her back and her pelvis is tilted forward. A smaller female to my right, arch in her back and her pelvis is tilted forward, because nothing can change the skeletal structure. It doesn't matter if the female's got muscles, is on a ton of steroids like most females are in bodybuilding. Nothing can change the skeletal structure. Once it's determined at conception, nothing can change the skeletal structure. Do not be lied to that there is any form of drugs that you can take, or that any form of drugs that can be administered to while a baby is pregnant inside the womb that can change the skeletal structure and automatically change a female to a male or a male to a female, vice versa, while being in the womb. Nothing can change the skeletal structure. You're born with one skeletal structure, male or you're female. If you're trying to mutilate yourself, as most people who are very, very confused are and deluded into thinking that there can be any gender different from the gender that they were born with, it's never going to happen. Once you're born male, you're male. Once you're born female, you're female. So even the word transgenders that we use is a form of programming, mental conditioning, because when you hear that word transgender, so that's why we keep repeating these things over and over and over again, so you can understand. Because when you hear the word transgender, in your mind, you believe that someone can change genders from male to female. There is no such thing. So that's why we use the word mutilate. Because what you're actually doing, in a sense, is mutilating yourself and thinking that you've changed genders. You have not, because the skeletal structure cannot be changed. So whatever drugs you're taking, whatever hormones you're taking, will only change the muscles. It will change the skin and change the water content. You can't even change the genitalia. All you're doing is mutilating yourself. You can't change the genitalia. All right. You can maybe take some sort of plastic surgery to have breast if you're male, but that's not a real breast. It's fake. So even the word transgenders is programming us to believe that genders can be switched. So that's why we tell you it's mutilation. It is not transgendering. We might use the word transgender just to make people understand what we're talking about, but in a true sense, what the person is doing is mutilating themselves and thinking that they can be a gender different from the gender that they were born with. All right, so let's play one more clip of a video to show you exactly where the location of the female hip is, which is different from the male hip. So this is the primary identification. Those two things will never ever change. So no matter what happens, if let's say, for example, someone had surgery, okay, a man trying to mutilate themselves into thinking that they can be female, and they had surgery, and they and the surgery now gave them some fake breasts and mutilated themselves by castrating themselves and trying to give themselves a female genitalia. Nothing can change the skeletal structure. So the arch in the back will not be present. The location of the hip will always be above the crotch and cannot be below for a man. And that is what makes a female female, because her hips are below the crotch, as you're looking at the screen right here. Okay? So nothing can change those hips, and nothing can change the arch in the back. It doesn't matter what kind of plastic surgery they can give and get a Brazilian butt lift. The butt lift will still show that the hips are above the crotch. There's nothing that science can do about that. Because messing with the skeletal structure means you're going to end up dead, because the skeletal structure is the foundation of a human being's life. If you mess with it, you're only going to end up dead. It's as simple as that. So let's continue on with just to show you what a regular female looks like. When we say regular female, we mean that females, in a normal looking female, the hips of a female are going to be wider than her shoulders. Does that mean if a female has shoulders that are wider than her hips that she's not female? Of course not. The only thing, when we talk about, you've probably heard this on some YouTube channel, which is probably owned by the Vatican, saying that a shoulder to hip ratio determines if you're male or you're female. So that means if a female has wider shoulders than her hips, then she's male. But no, it's the location of the hips that determines if you're male or female. For females, it's always going to be below the crotch. It doesn't matter if she's got wider shoulders. The location is going to be below the crotch. That is what makes you female. Okay? So hip to shoulder ratio only comes in when you're trying to see how curvy a woman might look. But regardless, a female is still going to be shaped like a female. Alright? The Q angle is still going to be ridiculously acute than that of a male, because a female has a wider pubic arch of 120 degrees or more, which is necessary for childbirth, and males have a narrow pubic arch of 90 degrees or less. So with regular females, as you can see right here, this is the location of where the female elbow usually is, and it's always going to be right above her belly button, and the female starts spreading from underneath her elbows right there, and the widest point will always be the hips, which is always going to be below the crotch. Okay, so we're going to play this clip so you can see how the tape goes around to measure the widest point in the female's body, which is the hips. As you can see right there, the tape goes round and it's below the crotch. This is how females get measured into clothes, because without having this correct measurement of the female hip, a lot of the clothes that are sewn around the world and sent to different countries will not fit the females because the location of the hip is varying. But every hip of every female is below the crotch. So this female is going to turn around so you can see the location of that hip from the back of a woman. As you can see right here, it is slightly above the bum line but below the crotch. And the Q angle will always tell you if you're female or you're male. Okay, the Q angle is the angle between the hip and the knee, and for females it's very, very acute because of the wide pubic arch. The wide pubic arch makes everything in the pelvis to be farther apart for a female, so that's why the Q angle of a female is very, very acute, and the Q angle of a female starts below the crotch. For males, the Q angle will start higher up. So if this picture that you're looking at was a male's Q angle, it wouldn't be this acute like that of a female, and will start farther away from this bum line, higher up around here. Okay? And I always tell people, if you have difficulty trying to determine the sex of a person by looking at the pictures from the front, try to see if you can find a picture of the person from the back. Because once you see the picture of the person from the back, the Q angle is going to tell you that you're looking at either a female or a male. So let's continue on with talk about a few things before we get deep into the transvestigation of Miss or Mr. Harry Kissinger, as he's known. So let's go. So the Vatican has been trying to shut us down because we are trying to tell you guys the truth. And we've always told you guys that the Vatican owns YouTube, and YouTube is the Vatican. They landed a strike on account, even though the strike has cleared, but we know that at some point in time, the Vatican, being the sneakiest and the most evil organization in the world, who runs the world today, they are going to somehow find a way to shut down our account. They could do it through several ways. They could give off such lies of, let's say that someone hacked into YouTube, because that's the main thing right now they want you to believe. They want you to believe in that online security is very, very fraudulent, and online security is very, very weak. That's what they want you to believe. So they can go through so many different ways of shutting this account. They could tell you, come up with such frivolous ideas as like that someone hacked into YouTube and closed maybe 20, 30, 40 or 40,000 accounts, or whatever number they want to put up. So you can actually believe that that is the reason why this channel is no longer on. They have so many ways that they can do it. They can sneakily just say, oh, like the YouTube crashed, and when YouTube came back on, they lost so many accounts, because that's the way to go, because they're trying to shut people down from getting the truth. Because when the Vatican invented the internet, the idea was to use it to spread as much disinformation as they could possibly, quickly and easily. So that's the whole reason for internet, so they can at any point in time get information or disinformation across speedily. Is the reason for your cell phones and having all this like iPhone kind of phones in which the screen is so large, and having very nice TV screens and very nice computers, is so that they can get this disinformation to you quickly. So what they didn't bargain on, because God is such a wonderful and wise God. What they didn't bargain on was that the very tool that they were trying to use to spread disinformation across, because you can imagine what these people were doing when there was no such thing as the internet. Just take your mind back to a couple of years ago, let's say maybe 2 decades ago, in which there was no internet. Imagine all the havoc these guys caused, because by then information was very, very controlled. And you would literally believe, and they had access to controlling so much of the people's mind, because if you didn't have access to information, any information that they gave to you was what you considered to be truthful. So, for example, when they were spreading lies about the First World War and Second World War and trying to get people involved in it, they were very, very successful because everything was compartmentalized and people didn't have access to information. So right now they thought about it and they brought us such things as the internet and said this is going to be a faster way to get disinformation across. What they didn't bargain on was the fact that the same tool that we're trying to use passing disinformation across would be the tool that will be getting the truth out quickly as possible. So right now people watching the videos have access to truth. Because now you can download the video and take it somewhere with you and make somebody else watch and listen, and somebody will get the truth speedily. And this is the great thing about videos and pictures. Pictures can tell you what's going on in a very quick minute, instead of you spending time maybe to read a book that's gonna last, maybe you're gonna take maybe like 2-3 days, even though you're gonna get much more out of a book, all right, than watching videos. But the videos get information so quickly to you, so that in a minute you will understand what maybe took somebody to do maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years. You could understand it under an hour. So that's the great thing about videos. So, but the Vatican is trying to find a way to shut down the truth on the internet. They are going through so many different ways of doing it. For right now, they've removed, let's say for example, they have what they call I've forgotten what the name of that stuff is. Let me get the right information, the right words for you. So the word I was trying to find was net neutrality. So net neutrality is one of those agendas which the Vatican has brought upon, which is going to limit people from having access to the truth. Because net neutrality is going to take away the fact that you should treat all data as equal. It doesn't matter how large the data is. So for example, we know that videos carry a lot of data. That means they carry voice and they carry pictures. Unlike maybe internet, which is just carries only like data only and has no let's say pictures and video data connected. So net neutrality treated everything to be the same. So that means it didn't give preference to what you were transmitting over the internet, which in a technical sense it doesn't really do, because what's going to do that is the kind of modems that they're going to be introducing newly, because the older modems that we have now treat all data equally. So that means the newer modems that are going to come out is going to treat data, is going to separate data, pictures, voice, and video, and treat them separately. So based on the money you pay, all right, you're not gonna be having so much quality videos over like browsing through your emails or browsing through the internet. So that is what's going on here with such things as net neutrality. And then also for a very long time the United States was responsible for let's say the domain names, or providing the domains for, let's say, the internet addresses that you have. So right now they're going to separate it and make sure that countries or governments have individual control over those names or domains that they provide, which is going to make each government to pass its own laws, which is going to restrict people from having certain internet addresses or domains. Does it make sense? So all this is because these guys did not have the plan that the internet, which they were using, which they manufactured so that they could pass a lot of disinformation quickly and easily amongst themselves and into the world, will be used to tell the truth. So I don't know if you've ever heard Hillary Clinton say, have this message during, I think, the election with Barack Obama. She was saying that in the information department, that the government is fighting a losing war. And a lot of people would think about that they were talking about terrorism at that point, but they were talking about in an open sense that the internet is being used to pass so much truth such that they can get things done like they were doing before the internet came about, like during the Second World War, all the Vietnam Wars and the wars way back in history that the Vatican has engineered. So that's why the Vatican is very much interested in shutting us down. But there is one truth which they can't shut down. They can shut down videos, they can shut down the internet, They can shut down phone calls and phone conversations, but they can't shut down reading a book. So that's the one blessing that we have. Because you can't stop somebody from picking up a book to read. How are you going to do that? They can only do that when you accept maybe the microchip which they are planning on the artificial intelligence in the future. But you can't stop somebody from picking up a book and read. So that's why we put a lot of information in our book for you to understand, so that it should be like, some sort of, let's say, what's the right word to use? It should be some sort of, let's say, I can't remember. Sometimes I lack. I forget words because I'm having so much stuff going through my head trying to recall everything I'm saying. What we're trying to say is a book should be some sort of guardian to you besides your Bible, because everything that we wrote in the book is layering off the Bible, especially the Geneva Bible. All right, so our book is out. We're sending emails out to those who sent us an email and said that we're interested in the book, and we tell them the price and the cost of shipping in the book. And like we promised before, we'll ship the book to you anywhere you are in the world, provided you have an address that can be shipped to. If you do not get an email, I want you to understand that we have very limited copies of the book. So, and we're trying to serve people on a first come, first serve basis. So that means if you send us an email, and you were the first person to send us an email, then we'll send you an email for the book. So you have to be patient with us. If you don't receive an email, you will receive an email later on. And if you're a new subscriber and you're interested in the book as well, send us an email so that when we print more copies out, we'll put you on the email list as well. And we'll be it's a slow process, but gradually we'll be having more copies such that you wouldn't need to wait so long to get an email from us telling you the price and cost of shipping for the book. But regardless, all the same, everybody who sent us an email will get an email in response with the price and cost of shipping of the book. So the Skeletal Q video that you're looking at right here, the strike has been removed from account, but we know that some way in the future that the Vatican is going to try to shut us down, because they know that they cannot hide away from this truth. So if you're interested in watching the Skeletal Q video, please look for the Bono video on the channel. We'll give you instructions on how to watch it, and that's all we have. And then the next thing that I want to say before we get into the Henry Kissinger video is this. Our channel is not based on rumors. We do not spread any rumors. We don't like slandering people. So if you're going to say that someone is a transgender without providing links of pictures based on the primary identification of how to identify the sex, based on the fact that the female skeletal structure is designed to give birth and the male skeletal structure is not, that means a female has hips below the crotch, an arch in the back, a pelvis that's tilted forward, and a wide pubic arch, which helps her to give birth, which differentiates the sexes and tells us that a woman is different from a man. If you do not provide those links of pictures in your comment section, if you're asking about someone's gender and you go ahead to say that the person is a transgender, you're going to be blocked from leaving comments on the channel. We do not condone any sort of slandering or rumor spreading on our channel. If you want to spread rumors, send us an email. Our email is the same as the channel name at gmail.com. And for those who are interested in the book also, the email is the same as the channel name at gmail.com. So in the comment section, please provide your links of pictures. Even if you're asking a question about the person, you can't say such things as, I think this person is a transgender. You're going to get blocked. If you're even going to make a suggestion that we should look into somebody, you still have to provide those links of pictures so that we know that you're learning, you're taking out the time to answer your own questions, and then you're just busy being deceived by everybody else who has an idea of what somebody looks like. Okay? So please do that. Otherwise, your comments are going to get blocked. All right? So that's all I have for you. So let's continue on and talk about a few things before we get into the transvestigation of Henry Kissinger proper. So for those who don't know who we're talking about, this is the fellow that we're talking about, Henry Kissinger, right? He says here, Henry Kissinger, German-born Heinz Alfred Kissinger, May 27, 1993, is an American political scientist, diplomat, and geopolitical consultant who served as the United States Secretary of State and National Security Advisor under the presidential administrations of Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford, a Jewish refugee who fled Nazi Germany with his family in 1938. As you can see here, the Vatican Code of Numbers is right at work here. 270 was born, 27, 2 plus 7 is equal to 9. If you're interested in the Vatican Code of Numbers, please look for the Lisa Lopes video. Pronounce either Lisa Lopes or Lisa Lopez, but spelled Lopes. I don't know if I have the pronunciation right, but regardless, look for the playlist on the channel called Vatican Code of Numbers or Lisa Lopes video, so we go into in-depth detail on that particular video explaining what the Vatican Code of Numbers is all about. So here is Henry Kissinger that we're talking about today, and we're looking into who's been fooling us for a very long time, because Henry Kissinger right here is a stooge of the Vatican. And if it's the first time on our channel, like we always tell you, that the Vatican is the one responsible for everything that's happening in your world. And this is one of the many lies that the Vatican uses to tell you that it's the Jews, because when you read through this particular Wikipedia article, which shows the official stats of Henry Kissinger, he's going to talk about the fact that he's a Jew. And then you're going to come up with the conclusion that Jews indeed run the world. The Jews are a creation of the Vatican. Because when you study your Bible, when you see the word Jew in your Bible, it doesn't mean Jew. English interpreted it as Jew, because the right word in that Bible, especially in the Geneva Bible and King James Bible, is Hebrew. Hebrews are not the same thing as Jews. Jews is not an ethnicity. Remember that. Hebrew is an ethnicity. A Jew is not an ethnicity. A Jew means you're practicing the first 5 books of Moses, which is called the Torah. All right? Jew is a religion. So, for example, if someone says they're a Muslim is not an ethnicity, because some Arabs practice Islam. Islam is not their ethnicity. They are Arabs. Someone might say, I'm a Christian. Christianity is not an ethnicity, because you have people from different ethnicities around the world practicing Christianity. So you can't say Christianity is an ethnicity. The same with someone saying he's a Buddhist. There's so many people from all around the world of different ethnicities practicing Buddhism. All right? But that's not their ethnicity. So how can we make the mistake to say that Jews is an ethnicity? So I want you guys to understand the programming here. So Jews are not an ethnicity. So you have to question these so-called Jews. Where are they from? What's your ethnicity? Because the Hebrews of the Bible, Hebrew was their ethnicity. All right? And the Torah was their religion. That's what it was in the Bible. So do not get confused when you hear the word Jews. You automatically think it's an ethnicity. No, it's not. It's the practice of a religion. Anybody in the world can practice Judaism, can practice the first 5 books of Moses. That does not make you a Jew. That does not make you practicing the first 5 books of Moses does not make that an ethnicity. So you guys have to understand that. Even the so-called Hebrew Israelites, who are very, very deluded, say they are Hebrew Israelites. Hebrew Israelites. But what is their ethnicity? Are they really Hebrew? So, were they born in Israel? Well, I don't have time to get into that. When you get a book, we go into full details to make you understand the difference between the two. That being Jewish is not an ethnicity. You have to ask the so-called guys who are in Israel, what is their ethnicity? It's not the practice of a religion, the practice of the first 5 books of Moses, or the first called the Torah. It's not an ethnicity. Practicing a religion is not an ethnicity. Make sure you ask them those questions. So the Vatican is the one that's responsible for your world, and not the Jews. The Jews, the albino Jews that you find right now in Israel, are a creation of the Vatican. All right, so that's what you guys have to understand. So let's get into the transvestigation of Mr. Henry Kissinger right away. So here is the first picture of Henry Kissinger, and here's Henry Kissinger with a country singer called Dolly Parton. Sorry, this country singer is called Dolly Parton. Now, if you guys grew up like me, I grew up on country music, and this is one of the reasons why I cannot forgive the Vatican for what it has done to me. I grew up loving my childhood. I say this all the time. If there's anybody who loved their childhood, I am the one who loved it the most. I don't know about the team that I'm working with that's making all this information and videos that we are producing possible. But I loved my childhood. For me to now find out that everything that I based my childhood on, that I loved, all the memories that I created for the number of years that I've lived on this earth were all false, and that someone was behind making me to have those false memories, and those people are the Vatican, is very, very unforgivable. I cannot forgive them for that, because they've taken away my whole entire childhood and everything that I believed. That means I was building castles in the air, and everything that I thought was real was not. So why am I so passionate about what I'm doing? I'm passionate about it because I want another child out there not to have false memories of their childhood based on a deception that's been created by people who seek after power, who live in the Vatican. I want another child to have some truth, since I couldn't have any. Because everything that I loved and everything that I based my whole entire childhood was all false. From the people I listened to like, for Dolly Parton is a female right here, so no slandering allowed, so he's not talking about Dolly Parton. The fact that I'm mentioning Dolly Parton is because Dolly Parton here is making us believe that Henry Kissinger right here is male. So that means she's part of the system of lying to us. If I happen to tell my dad right here that Dolly Parton was lying to him about the fact that Henry Kissinger was a man, my dad would think I'm crazy. Alright? So that goes my childhood out of the door. The people that you looked up to were all lying to you. So that is the reason why I'm so passionate about what I do. So passionate because I want another child not to grow up on this deception that the world has given to us. Because some of our parents didn't do the due diligence to tell us the truth, at least have a mindset, at least to point us in the right direction. So I want another generation to have some truth and not all these lies. The Vatican has deceived the whole entire world. Every single person is living in a deception. Every single person that you can think of. And the reason for now here's the biggest question we've never ever answered. Why is the Vatican, why is the albino Vatican today so successful in deceiving the world? Besides the fact that they control the money supply, they are successful because of the law enforcement and judicial organizations in the world. And why is that so? Because they have made justice to come at a price. So whosoever pays anybody to maintain justice controls the person who maintains justice. So the reason why the Vatican has been so successful is because the whole entire judicial system of this world is corrupt, because they are being paid to maintain justice. If you study your Bible, which is the #1 book that you should study on how a society should be organized, you would find that there was no such thing as a police. The people police themselves. So that means if you're an able-bodied male, the right of policing your community was dependent on you. You were not paid to police your community. It was a duty, a service that each and everyone did. So the fact that the Vatican, right, pays police officers to maintain law and order has corrupted the whole entire system. Because whosoever pays you controls you. The reason why the Vatican is so successful is because of the police in every single country in this world. Especially the police in the United States are the most corrupt of all. I know there's no word for it. The whole entire judicial system of the United States is the most corrupt that the world has ever seen and maybe will ever see. I never make friends with the police. If someone tells me they're a cop, I'm looking at you with out of the corner of my eye every single second because I can't trust you. Now somebody may ask me that I'm saying something very wrong, that they're very good cops. Well, let me explain what the meaning of goodness is. Let's say, for example, that there was a company out there trying to kill your mother. All right? And you had no job. And this company hired you. And you find out that this company has constantly been trying to kill your mother. Would you still be working for that company? Working for that company would mean that you're aiding and abetting this company killing your own mom. Because a lot of people get confused and think that they can make changes from inside. You can't make any changes when you're inside something. You make changes from the outside. That's why when you take a drug, if you're sick and you take a drug, what do? Is the drug inside your body? No. You take the drugs from outside. You can only make changes from the outside, not from the inside. If you're still working in a system that's so corrupt and perpetuating crime after crime and killing humanity, you're aiding and abetting it. You cannot make that change. Some people will say, okay, they were good cops and say, you know, I'm just a good cop trying to, I know the system is corrupt. You're not doing anything good by staying in it. You're aiding and abetting all the crimes that the Vatican is heaping upon humanity. Because it's more like someone who says that, let's say, for example, you like basketball like I do. And your greatest basketball team and the team that you love to watch the most is, say, the Boston Celtics. Okay? And you say you're a Boston Celtic fan. And you walk inside a building and you guys about, you at a, let's say, at a pub trying to watch a basketball game with the Boston Celtics. And everybody there is dressed in a Boston Celtic uniform, all right? Or Boston Celtic jersey. And you say you're a Boston Celtic fan as well. And you come in wearing the Lakers jersey. What does that say? What does that say? That says you're not a true fan of the Boston Celtics. That is what cops do. That is what cops do. They are wearing the jersey, all right, of the Vatican, whatever jersey or uniform that they wear, which is black on black. And they say that you're working in your own best interest. By them just merely putting on that uniform, it shows you that this person is against you. So how can you say that you're there working for good, that you're trying to change the system, trying to be a good cop? There's no such thing. So that's why I don't trust cops. I've only had to deal with a cop one time, and it was very, very bad. I don't get into the details right here, but I give a little snippet in the book as well because I wrote my own part. So the reason why the Vatican is so successful at all the crimes and all the lies and everything else is because of the judicial system which they've set up. Because they've made justice to be about payment. Because the lawyers will not take your court case until they're paid. The judges will not even sit until they're paid. Because they've made it to be a job. Justice is not a job. Justice is a service. There's a difference between a service and a job. A mother takes care of a child because it's a service, it's not a job. All right? You have to know that difference. So let's continue on with the transvestigation of Henry Kissinger right here. Here's a picture of Henry Kissinger with is it Nixon here? I don't know I don't remember the name of the president is Richard Nixon. But what we're going to look at is the Q angle of Henry Kissinger right here on the left to a screen. As you can see, this is an acute Q angle, an hourglass figure of a female, as you can tell right here. Even though the picture is very blurry, but you can still see that because Henry Kissinger is 100% female, not a man in any way, shape, or form. Let's go to another picture of Henry Kissinger. Now, here's Henry Kissinger with his so-called wife. I think the wife is, I don't know if the name is Nancy, but this is a very weird-looking lady. We don't have time to get into the transvestigation of this because whosoever she is, she's not important. But I just wanted to show you guys that this is a very weird-looking lady, the wife of Henry Kissinger, right? Let's go to another picture of Henry Kissinger right here. As you can see, Henry Kissinger with Vladimir Putin, and you can see right here, Kissinger has an arch in his back, because a woman always has an arch in her back, necessary because the pelvis is tilted forward. This is what Henry Kissinger has here. So that's why you can't say that there is any political figure, because a lot of people believe that Vladimir Putin is actually good, that he's against the evil organization of the United States of America, which is actually the Vatican, that he stands for some sort of good because he speaks his mind. Vladimir Putin here is part of the Vatican. He couldn't have been in power without the Vatican, because the Vatican runs all governments in this world. There is no government that the hands of the Vaticans are not in. The hand of the Vatican is right in here. Alright? So if Vladimir Putin was busy telling you the truth, he should have told you that the person that he's been interacting with in Henry Kissinger is actually female, because she has an arch in her back, which makes her 100% woman and not a man. So you can't trust in any political figure. They all work for the Vatican. Alright? Let's go another picture. Here is Henry Kissinger again with somebody, and I think it's somebody in one of the Arabic leaders in this, and maybe the Middle East as they call it today. But you can see that the way Henry Kissinger sits right here, this is how a female sits. Crossing the legs, having a full cross at the thighs, unlike males do with their calves. Because Henry Kissinger is 100% female, not a man in any way, shape, or form. And this guy over here, because a lot of people actually believe that the Muslims, the Arab world, oh, they are in loggerheads because they make you believe in all the Middle Eastern wars that the United States has with the Arab world. All that is a fabrication to control the lay Muslims, because the lay Muslims don't understand that Islam is a creation of the Vatican, was created by the black woolly haired Vatican leaders who were running the Vatican before the albino ones are doing it today. A lot of people may say, okay, what is he talking about? Albino? What do I mean by albino? In essence, what I'm saying is this. If you say you're white, what you're saying is you're an albino, because you don't understand the history of the word, that the color white, or that white, it does not designate a color. White is an absence of all color. White is not a color. The word white is from the Latin word albus, which means a lack of melanin. And so everybody in essence who is white, when you say you're white, what you're saying is I'm albino. But since the elites who run the world today happen to be albinic, they didn't want you guys to understand that that is what it means, because the word albino means a genetic abnormality. So they preferred the word white, so you wouldn't know that. So if you're interested in all that information, get on the channel, find the playlist called Myth of Whiteness, and do yourself a bit of service by just listening to it. Listen to it for a while and see if it tells you anything valid. If not, no problems. Okay? So, but right here, what we're trying to show you is that the Arab world is all run by the Vatican and there is no truth in it. If you think that all the conflicts over there are genuine and real, it's a fabrication to control the Islamic world. Why? The Islamic world was come to the knowledge of who created Islam and under the fake designation of Jesus Christ based on Christianity. That is what all this is about. But it will not unfold right now. It's something that's a work in progress, which they will tell you guys in the future if you're from Islam or you practice Islam. So let's go to another picture of Henry Kissinger. This Henry Kissinger as a young child, as you can see, that is a baby girl and not a man in any way, shape, or form, because you can still tell by the A angle of how it looks. Because female look like an A from the top to their hips. They start getting wider and always wider until they get to the hips. As you can tell right here, that's the same thing that's happening to this young boy, or young girl, sorry, in which the Vatican took and mutilated her to be a man. As you can tell, she's spreading rather wider like a young female usually does, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female, not a man in any way, shape, or form, as you can tell by that picture. All right, let's go. Another picture of Henry Kissinger. As you can tell here, an hourglass figure. As you can tell, he spreads wider from underneath his elbows like all females do, and the widest part will always be the Q angle below the crotch, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female. All right, another picture. Here's Henry Kissinger, just showing you that acute Q angle again right here. Even though this picture just cut it off just before we could see it, but we could tell that the crotch is right here and this Q angle is very, very acute, which is below, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female, not a man in any way, shape, or form. Let's go to another picture of Henry Kissinger. As you can tell here, arch in the back, clear as night and day. The suit can't even hide it, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female. Arch in the back because that pelvis is tilted forward. All right, let's go. Another picture of Henry Kissinger again. As you can see, the way this man is sitting with an arch in the back right here, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female with those exposed thighs. Because when a female sits and crosses her legs, she shows a lot of thighs because the pubic arch is wider, and so the cross can be much more perfect on the legs than how a man does it. A man usually crosses his legs much more at the calves and the knees than at the thighs, like you see here with Henry Kissinger, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female. Look at that thigh spread showing and the arch in the back. All right, let's go. Another picture of Henry Kissinger here. As you can see, there's an hourglass figure because he's spreading and getting wider from underneath his elbows, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female, not a man in any way, shape, or form. Henry Kissinger again with an hourglass figure, as you can see right here. Hourglass figure and acute Q angle below the crotch, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female, not a man in any way, shape, or form. 100% female. Let's go. Another picture, and here is a picture of Henry Kissinger that started all this, because I don't quite remember what we were looking at. I'm trying to recall. Do you guys remember? Okay, never mind. What was happening here? Let me try to. I still can't recall what we were looking at. But regardless, let's take a look at this. If this is Henry Kissinger's belt, right? You can see where the bum starts right here. That's a very huge, humongous bum for a man. Because why? The female body, let's say, because right here, if we're looking at Henry Kissinger's belt right here, his navel is right around here. His navel can be here. His navel is right around here based on the dimensions on the torso of this body. His navel is right around here. It's not on the belt, but above it, right around here. And with females, when you draw a line across the female waist, which is always going to be above the navel, as we can tell right around here, here's the Henry Kissinger's waistline is right around here. It's going to split the body, the torso, the length of the torso of the female body in half. All right. So Henry Kissinger's navel is right around here, and his waist is right around here. So that means there's a line drawn across right here splits the length of the torso of Henry Kissinger's body into half. So that's why a female has a longer butt, because the butt starts well halfway inside the torso of the body and continues longer down until the hips. A man's butt is always going to start lower down in the length of the torso of the body and end quickly, making males who have very short butts. A woman has a longer one. That's why Henry Kissinger's butt is this long, and it starts way higher up in the torso of the body, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female, and he's pretending, or she's pretending right here, that she's trying to have a shave. I'm sure this female has no, as we can tell from all of Henry Kissinger's pictures, it doesn't even look like he has any, let's say, shave burns or shave scar around his face. No facial hair. There's nothing to shave. He's just pretending, trying to tell us that he's actually male and that he shaves off his hair, when indeed she is female. Alright, let's go another picture of Henry Kissinger. And here's Henry Kissinger again with that so-called wife. You can see how weird looking this wife looks. We don't slander her channel. We're not saying she's anything but that she is what she is. We're just saying that she looks weird. Her name is Nancy Magines, I think so. Nancy Magines, or Nancy Magines, if that's how the name's pronounced. That's a very weird looking lady. Well, she's not important, like we said, so we don't have time to transvestigate her. All we care about is the liar and deceiver right over here, Henry Kissinger, a stooge of the Vatican. Let's go. Another picture of Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger again in office. As you can tell, he spreads from underneath that elbows, because those are all hips, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female. Let me blow this up so you guys can see very clearly. As you can see, it spreads from underneath the elbows and has an hourglass figure, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female and not a man in any way, shape, or form. Been masquerading around too long, and I'm glad that we caught it before he died, because he's one of the most polarizing figures in world history, present modern day world history, which the Vatican uses to control our perception of our world. And he was nothing. He was nothing close to being a man, was 100% female. Let's go another picture of Henry Kissinger. As you can still tell what we told you about, that from the way the belt goes around his waist, it splits the length of the torso of the body in half, and you can see this hourglass figure, because normally females get so thick right around their hips, because that's where the widest portion of their body is, from the pelvic region down to the hips. As you can see, this acute angle of Henry Kissinger. Even though the picture cuts it, you can still tell that he gets wider and wider and wider and wider, and starts tapering around here, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female. 100% female, not a man in any way, shape, or form. Lying deceiver of the Vatican organization. The Vatican runs the world, everything. So everything in this world, down to the shower heads in your house, the computers, the laptops, the phones, the air conditioning unit that you use, it's all run by the Vatican. Here is Henry Kissinger again as a young child. As you can tell, that this is not the face of any young boy or young male. This is actually the face of a female who's been mutilated and made to believe that she is male. Alright, let's go another picture of Henry Kissinger sitting down here with another stooge of the Vatican. I don't know who that is, but what we're looking at is Henry Kissinger's arch in the back and the way she sits, because that's how a female sits, as you can tell, with a lot of thigh exposure, because the pubic arch is wider, giving the females ability to cross their legs more at the thighs than men. Arch in the back for Henry Kissinger, because he's 100% female. Another picture of Henry Kissinger. As you can tell from where Kissinger is putting his hands on his hips, that's way too high. Males can't do that. And look at the angle of how those hands lands on the waist, because that's Henry Kissinger's waist, and his belly button is right around here, high above the navel, and this is where a woman usually rests her hand, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female. You can even tell by how long, alright, from that waist down to the crotch is, because a female will have a longer length, right, from her navel down to her crotch, because the pelvis is longer than that of a female, or that of a male, sorry to say, all the way down to the hips. Alright, so let's go Another picture of Henry Kissinger, and this is the picture that should end it. If we didn't have to show you another picture, this should suffice. Let me blow this up so you guys can see clearly what's going on here. All right, here's Henry Kissinger's shoulder. So when it's this is the best place we can use the shoulder to hip ratio. Now, on a lot of channels, you probably have heard this on Mr. E3000's channel, who always likes using the shoulder to hip ratio. The shoulder to hip ratio should only be applicable to males, because there is no man in the world in which his shoulders are going to be narrower than his hips. No man in the world. No man. If you even see a man that looks like his hips are much more wider than his shoulders, it's because he's a very fat man who's accumulated so much fat around the midsection that it gives the appearance that his hips are wider than his shoulders. But with any male, there is no man in the world in whose hips are going to be as wide as his shoulders. The shoulders of a man will always be wider than his hips. But here in Miss Henry Kissinger, as we call her right now, I want you to take a good look. Here is Henry Kissinger's shoulders right here. Don't worry about this external part, because that's the shoulder padding of the suit that she's wearing. The shoulders end right here. And look at where Henry Kissinger's hips is. All the way out here. And look at how wide this is. Look at the way it sits. Look at how it spreads wider from here. Right? Wider all the way down, because this is how a female spreads when she sits down, because the pelvic region is wider and the hips are wide, as you can tell. Look at this length, drawing down from here down to here. Look at this length. And if we draw this length from up here, right here, it goes up wider. Wider than the shoulders. And here is the length of, or the width of the hips compared to Henry Kissinger's shoulders. Because Henry Kissinger is 100% female. Take a look. This is where the hips end, how wide the butt ends. You draw a line, goes up. It's wider than the shoulders right here. Take a look at that. Take a look. Because Henry Kissinger is 100% female. I want you guys to marinate on that picture for a while. Just marinate on it and take a look. You're looking at a female. Marinate on this picture. Let me blow this up so you guys can see. Let me try to blow this up right there. Look at that. See how wide this is? All the way down here. Because Henry Kissinger is 100% female. Short shoulders, wider hips sticking outside the shoulders. Alright, let's go. Here's Henry Kissinger again from the back. You can see this hourglass figure right here. Hourglass figure arch in the back. Hourglass figure spreading like a woman is, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female, not a man in any way, shape, or form. Henry Kissinger again, as you can see this acute Q angle below the crotch. Don't worry about the illusion they're trying to create with his pants right here. The pants don't end here, they end right here. That's where his crotch is. And you can see this acute Q angle below the crotch, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female. And we still see those same narrow shoulders compared to the very wide hips below, because Henry Kissinger is all woman. Alright, another picture, Henry Kissinger again sitting down there with Ronald Reagan. That leg cross still tells you that this is a woman sitting, and not a man in any way, shape, or form. Arch in the back. Henry Kissinger, 100% female. Oh, that's the same picture again. And here's Henry Kissinger. Does it look like Henry Kissinger sitting here has a scrotum, or he has labia? Judging from this picture, even though it's very blurry. Look at that, how wide this pubic arch is. Remember, when a woman sits, because of how wide the pubic arch is, she forms like a U shape in between her thighs. When a man sits, it's more like V-shaped. What we are seeing here is a U, and it doesn't look like any form of scrotum is in here, but a labia, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female and not a man in any way, shape, or form. Henry Kissinger again, arch in the back. Clear as night and day. Arch in the back, tilted pelvis forward, arch in the back, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female. And here again, look at that acute Q angle, below the crotch. Look at how Henry Kissinger walks, in a catwalk manner, which all females do, because the pubic arch is wider. Female has a wide pubic arch, so that's why she catwalks, because she's trying to balance the weight. Because the feet need to do, or the legs need to do two things: come inwards and forwards to balance the weight. So a female catwalks because of the wide pubic arch, and this is what Henry Kissinger is doing. You can still tell the hourglass figure, a cute Q angle below the crotch, because Henry Kissinger is 100% female. All right. So we've come to the end. I think that was last picture, and we've come to the end of today's video. I hope you guys learned something. Subscribe to the second channel, Tricks of the S-Trade 2, in case this channel goes down, or in case YouTube shuts us down altogether and shuts down YouTube, and someone hacks into YouTube. YouTube goes down, the channels get lost, the videos get lost, and we can come back. Send us an email so we have you on the list of correspondences, because we're working on our website and we're working on videos in the future, and we hope to make all that free, okay, so that you can get this information. Because like I said, for me personally, this is very personal. The Vatican took away my childhood. I don't want another child in this world having that. I want them to have the truth, so they can have at least a good childhood, a better childhood than I do, because I don't have any right now. All the memories I had were false. So please download all our videos and save it, pass it on, share it with somebody, because it might be the only history that we have that tries to tell us, or tries to fit the puzzle of our world from A to Z. And so with that, I'll leave you with these words: look with your eyes, but see with your brain. Thanks, and bye-bye.